Hey, what's up? Good morning. It is morning here. So this video is about help, and it's also about creativity. And so something that is of great assistance to me in my life right now is I did a course in music theory for singer-songwriters. And in that course, I was recommended by the instructor, who is also my singing teacher, she recommended a couple of books. One of them is called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. She's not related to James Cameron, who made like Avatar and stuff like that, but she was married to Martin Scorsese and the director kind of guy. And so she walked her path and stuff like that. And she wrote this book that is like, if you are an artist, it's like holding a mirror up to your soul, because it's not, it's hard for anybody to really understand anybody else, but artists are a certain type. And you might not even know that that's who you are, and that's why it can be challenging in life, right? But then when somebody explains some stuff, you know what, it really is reminiscent of like narcissism. Like if you are unaware of the set of behaviors that contribute to the condition that is commonly referred to as narcissism, which a lot of it I don't agree with, but still, there is a subset of behaviors. I don't know if that's the right word, but that is like, it's like with all of these factors combined, it is, typically what we would refer to as narcissism. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, because you were blind to it before, but then all of a sudden, all of these seemingly unrelated behaviors that you might see exhibited by some human being, all of a sudden you recognize them as a whole thing. Like there's a thing called the pussycat principle, or it has other names, but it's like if you're so close to an object or something like that, you'd be like, oh well, it's a whisker, or it's an ear, or no, it's a tail. But when you stand back and look at it, you're like, oh wow, it's all the same thing. We're looking at a pussycat, right? And so it's the thing with narcissism, with those behaviors. When you stand back, and then all of a sudden it just clicks, and then it's like, oh my God, I'm dealing with something that is relatively complex here, not complex in terms of like, say, the universe and God and, like some things, but it is psychology, and it is, so it is relatively complex. I think that's a good way to describe it. And so what is it? And there, like I said, there's an aha moment when you recognize that all of these seemingly, separate things are actually, actually they're indicative of a certain thing. And then so it's like that with being an artist. I thought that I had ADHD. I thought that I had OCD, because both of these things run heavy in my family. My father and my mother, and I don't mean a little bit, I mean heavy. And so, and then bipolar as well. When I sit and I look at what it's describing, and then in conjunction with my own understanding of life and psychology and physics and spirituality, it's like, wow, I think that I kind of have sort of what is being described by some of these conditions, that labels that people have for certain people, right? OCD, ADHD or ADD, and bipolar, right? But after listening to the words of somebody who approached, I guess, who came to know themselves in a different way, you know, not through somebody else's labels and stuff like that, like just through what do you call it? Yeah, like, I don't know, her own path and whatnot. And then it's just like, oh my God, yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. It's just that I am an artist like this other person, right? And then you can learn from what it took them to come to terms with who they are and how to navigate life, and yeah, some of the intricacies about what it is to be a person who is, you know, kind of, an artist requires a lot more self-care. Self-care. You have to be careful with your energy, with who you're around, with the things that you become exposed to, because like a word can trigger you because you're analyzing things and you're paying attention, and the way that you process information, it's just a little bit different than, say, some other people do. It has a more profound nature, because it's like, where do you think all this art is coming from? I mean, just to put it in a nutshell for you, it's like, it, according to a lot of people, and yoga as well, is it's just out there. And as artists have, I would say, a sensitivity which is synonymous with receptivity. You're able to essentially to acknowledge and then step down and translate frequencies into things that can be shared with other people. You're able to catch things that otherwise are, you know, if you're not that sensitive, they're essentially invisible to you. Like how, you know, the James Webb Telescope, it's very sensitive, so it has this ability to receive impressions and images from very far away, and then capture them in a profound way so that it can then step them down and translate them into something that is, able to be shared with other people. And so I guess the point of all this is just that, like, so one of these books that I'm reading, hold on a second. One of these books is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And I tell you, if you're an artist, you know, like, so what is an artist? This is what I was thinking about this in the shower, and kind of why I was like, okay, I'll make a video about this. And it's like, well, you know, a lot of people do art, or they think art is cool or whatever, and that's great, right? But some people, like for myself, I can honestly say there is nothing else that I want to do with my life. I mean, I've worked in construction. I could have started a lot of different businesses. I did start a few businesses, and then I stopped them because it's like, no, this isn't it. This isn't who I am. This isn't what I'm about. This isn't what I'm here to do. I had a kombucha business before it became a big thing, and it was just like, no. Just repackaging goods. It's like, no, I'm here to do something else, and it is not this. And so I'd say, like, an artist is someone who would say, yeah, well, I'm going to do this for a living. I would rather take a stab at this than spend, you know, too much time doing something that doesn't feel right, and it's like, this isn't what I want. This doesn't fill my cup. And so and I feel that way. And that's why I have the existence that I do. It's why I've walked the path that I have, because I just refuse to do anything but be an artist. But I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know I was an artist. I mean, I did on a level, but I wasn't able to identify it. And I didn't have anyone around me who was able to identify it and encourage me. It just wasn't my upbringing. It wasn't my social setting. I had to kind of figure this stuff out on my own. And I'm not really into self-help books. I have always been into like spiritual and intellectual things and psychological and philosophical. But then all of a sudden, when I became a yogi, and then I didn't need to read all these books about yoga anymore, and I started getting into music and stuff, and all of a sudden, and then one thing led to another, and then I ended up reading these books about being an artist, and it was just like, is life-changing to hear some of the things that these people say. So the other book is called Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear. And both of these books are available on, Audible. You can download them using torrents if that's your thing. They're certainly available if you have Spotify Premium. They're on there. And so why is it such a big deal? Well, it's funny because, like, say, what is psychology? You go see a psychologist. It's just somebody saying some words, saying certain combinations of words in a certain way that when you hear them, it's just like, oh, I didn't think about it like that, or oh, I didn't realize, or oh, that makes sense. It's the same thing with philosophy and spiritual discourse, like things like that. When you hear things, it's just like, oh. And it's funny because they're just words, but if nobody said those words to you, those words are literally the difference between like understanding something and not. And it can be very challenging if you are, puzzled by your own existence and your own behaviors and just why you operate on the sort of premise that you do. Because it's like, well, why does it seem so easy for everybody else? They just like have kids and houses and work jobs, and like for me, it's just like, it's not possible to just have a job and just like, I could go out on my own doing flooring now, but I can't bring myself to embrace something that doesn't allow my soul to shine through and to transmit the beauty that I see in the world. It doesn't allow me to exhibit something that is so close to my heart, so I can't embrace it. And it's frustrating because it's like, I've never made more than like say 50 grand in a year. I was talking I know people that make like 5 times that much, and that's even peanuts compared to what a lot of other people make, but it's like money it's just not it, the most important thing to me is being true to myself, having integrity, living a long life, being stress-free, honoring my body and the earth, and being of service. I mean, that's just the way that I'm hardwired. Compassionate and empathetic, and also, fiercely intellectual, but and certainly curious. And that's where all this spiritual stuff comes in, because it's just fascinating. And anyways, so yeah, I don't know. I've been reading these books, and they're just so good that I just thought I would share this video about how good it is to have, a manual to life and who you are, and, not to like toot my own horn, but that is essentially what my book is. it's essentially the same premise of my own book about spiritual stuff, right? It is a manual. But it's not this whole thing about being an artist, right? This is somebody else's manual, and I'm just saying that it's helped me so much to just I don't know, it takes some of the load off, because you kind of, once you have a bit of an understanding about who you are and why you are the way that you are, it's easier to find your way and do what you need to do, because you are aware of some of the elements that you need to pay attention to, because if you don't, it will not it's just not, it doesn't work for you. Like, if you don't take time to yourself, it's weird being an artist. Like, you have to spend a lot of time alone, right? And you have to be comfortable with that. You have to you have to learn to love I think I don't know, myself, I already do love being alone most of the time, but it's also important to not be too alone, right? And to allow people in, and not to push everybody out, and not just because you have I don't know, it's important to find balance in everything that you do, right? So I think that's it. I don't want this video to run on if it doesn't need to. No, I think that's it. Yeah, so just highly recommend those two books, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron and Big Magic by, I think, Elizabeth Gilbert. She's the author of a book called Eat, Pray, Love, which was it was a bestseller for a long time. It's a famous book. And it's really nice because she narrates it, and it's nice when an author narrates her own book, because nobody knows the cadence of the material like they do, and knows how to what is really being said. So I will certainly be the speaker when my book gets audio booked. I'll do it, right? Because who could do it better? So yeah, that is it though, and I hope that helps somebody like it helps me, because like, when I think about it, if I had just known this stuff when I was a kid, if I would have been able to embrace being an artist, of course I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the experience, and it's like you can't think like that, right? It's unhealthy, but just like in like not euphemistically, but like not metaphorically, but hypothetically, right? If I had known, I could have been, I wouldn't be learning the guitar now. I'd be amazing. I'd be, probably rich and famous, and then I wouldn't be me, I need to be exactly where I am, going through my own trials and tribulations, right? It's not, I would never want it to be any different, because the man that I am right now, I just wouldn't want to be someone else, right? And if I had embraced this path and found success a long time ago, life would have been easier, and I wouldn't have learned the same lessons, and I wouldn't be able to contribute the art that I am working on these days, right? But yeah, so that's it. I'm gonna stop it right here at 1919.